Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you how to mix amazing bass guitar to easily sit right in the mix. I'm going to start by playing you the final mix for this track here, and then we'll solo up the bass guitar so you can hear what it's sounding like in its finished state before we break down the processing here. So let me hit play. Here's the final mix for this track. You can hear by itself, our final bass guitar mix sounds way meaner than it actually does inside the mix. But all of this extra stuff we're adding, all this stuff we're baking into our bass guitar sound is what's helping it sit where we want it inside the mix. So no matter where we park it, we're going to have the bottom end we want, and we're going to have the top end that's going to allow the bass to cut through everything else we've got going on. If we scroll through here, there is quite a bit going on in this track. So our bass guitar needs all the energy it can get to compete and cut through in this track. Let me take off all the processing here that we've added, and I'll mute our distortion track as well. Here's just our raw bass guitar sound. So you can hear it's played phenomenally well here. This is Mr. Shem Van Schreck, who played in Toto back in 2015, 2016, 2017. He's a good friend of my brother. He does vocal coaching for him. So we were able to get him to play on this cover of this track. Did an awesome job here. So all we want to do is we want to emphasize everything that's great about this performance. He gave us a really even performance here, so it's not like we need to crush it with compression volume-wise or do any automating for any of these fills that he's doing here. We just want to emphasize and take it a little bit further so it has all this energy to sit in the track. The first thing I'm doing here is I am doing the frequency split trick. So I'm isolating the bottom end on the DI, and I'm isolating the top end on this amp track. There's not two separate tracks here. The DI and the amp are actually the same recording that we've got here. I just duplicated it and did the frequency split trick. And then I'm also creating this distortion track, but we'll get to that in just a second. The first thing I am doing here, as always, is I'm rolling off the bottom end. So at about 70 hertz here, 12 dB per octave slope, even though he's playing a 5-string and he's going down to that really, really low note there, I want to roll off anything that's going to be kind of crazy. So if I turn this off here, watch on the frequency spectrum. There's a lot of energy going on down below like 30 hertz. We don't need any of that, and it's sitting way above everything else in the bass guitar. So we're using the high pass filter here to tame that really excessive bottom end coming from the 5-string. It's really awesome when he hits that low note, but we don't want it to overshadow everything else in the bass guitar. We don't want this bloom of bottom end and then no top end or anything above that. So we're using our high pass filter to control that here. So take a listen as he goes down to that bottom note. You can hear how even that bottom note sits there now. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go up and we're going to emphasize, but we're going to do that after compression. So I like to get my compressor in place before I boost any top end. I want to boost top end into compression so it kind of holds the frequency spectrum in place. So the next thing we're going to do here, I'm going to open up this FET compressor, running the attack at about 0.55 milliseconds here, so kind of like the classic 3 and 7 thing almost on the 1176, and then 50 millisecond release here, 4:1 ratio, and we're really going to squeeze down on the bass guitar. What this is going to do is it's going to further even out the performance here, and it's also going to add a little bit of grit. It's going to push the bass guitar, especially the bottom end notes, into this compressor. It's going to break up a little bit, and it's going to give us something we can emphasize with our top end boost here. So take a listen without and then with. So that doesn't sound the greatest, right? With our compressor just squashing our bass guitar, but it's going to keep it in one spot. And you can hear that little bit of breakup we're getting from this bottom end heavy instrument pushing into the 1176. Now, as we go back here, we can add top end to accentuate that little bit of push, that little bit of grit we're getting here. The first area I like to emphasize is right here around 700 hertz. It gives us a little bit of that mid-range growl, and that's going to help on the slap sections here. So about 5.5 dB at 700. Take a listen to this. That's going to help make sure that slapping area comes through inside the track and that it competes with all the guitars we got going on. Now this top end boost here, this is so we can hear and discern all of the notes he's playing. So when he does any of these faster fills, we want to make sure we can hear that inside the track and that it doesn't just sound like a big blob of low end there. We want to be able to hear what notes he's playing. So boosting like the 16 dB of 4K here, that's going to give us some string noise, some fret noise, so we can hear the notes he's playing inside the track. Also serves to further emphasize that slap part, which is going to really sit nicely in the mix now. You can hear as we push that top end up now, our compression doesn't sound so ugly on our bass guitar here. Now, the next thing we're going to do here, before I boost bottom end, I want to even this out because it's a 5-string and he can go down and hit this really low note. We want to make sure our bottom end is super, super even here. So none of the notes he's hitting in the bottom end stick out further than anything else. We can just park our bass guitar where we want it. It'll sit with our kick drum and give us a really good foundation in the bottom end. I like using a multiband for this. So we're just looking at 180 hertz and below here, 20-to-1 ratio, fastest attack, fastest release. And we're only doing a little bit of compression here on the bottom end, especially on those bigger notes, to hold it in place here. So take a listen. You can hear how it evens out the bottom end bloom of the bass guitar, and it pulls it up just slightly there. So we're evening it out to where that bigger note is sitting in the bottom end, that low note. You can see that's where most of the compression is going on here with the multiband. Low threshold set at about -26, -27 there. Only doing about 3, maybe 6 dB reduction here on those bigger notes, but keeping it pretty light here. We only want to bring down what's too much and then even everything else out. After that, now, the last piece of our chain here is boosting that bottom end. So we're at 80 hertz, which is usually where I like to boost on bass guitar. It gives you that nice feeling in the chest, and it hits really nicely with the kick drum. We're boosting 6 dB here in the bottom end. So take a listen without and then with this boost. That's the amazing bottom end we want to hear out of the bass guitar. So once we even it out with normal compression and then multi-band compression on the bottom end to hold the bottom end in place, we can boost that bottom end up and it's going to sit really, really evenly and we can park it exactly where we want it inside the track. Before we do anything else here, let's throw this inside the track and see where we're sitting before we add the final piece of the puzzle. So that's sounding pretty good. I want to add a little bit more to the top end and bring out all of these different fills and runs that he's playing so we hear them inside the track and they don't get washed out by all the guitars and keyboards that are going on. That's why I'm adding this distortion track. It's literally just one more duplication of our DI, just using the top end here, so everything above 180 hertz. And then I'm using Redlight distortion to absolutely annihilate the bass guitar. It is cranked all the way up on the second setting here. Drive is all the way up. Take a listen to what this sounds like by itself. It's just a mean, nasty bass guitar sound, and we're just tucking this up underneath. It's at -15, almost -16 here. We're just blending that in with the rest of our bass guitar. So take a listen without and then with. This is making sure we can further hear everything that he's playing inside this track. So let me throw the bass guitar, back inside the mix here. Getting amazing bass guitar sounds to sit really easily inside the track. Just a couple moves here. So our EQ first, shaping the bass guitar the way we want it as we push it into the compressor here. Really clamping down with our compressor so we can get it even and we can get a little bit of push, a little bit of drive out of the unit. Then using a multiband to even out the bottom end. This way we can park our bass guitar right where we want it, and the bottom end is going to sit with our kick drum. At the end of the chain here is where we're boosting bottom end. So once we get it even, then we bring up that bottom end bloom so our bass guitar really sounds amazing inside the track. And the last piece of the puzzle is the distortion track to make sure we can hear all of the fills and all the notes he's playing inside the mix. I hope that was helpful for you if you are looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer. Then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF guide that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork. Completely free resource for you, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.